Hi everyone! Today's objectives is the greatest common factor and factoring by grouping. They are pretty much the same using the same kind of idea, different kind of situation. So to start something with basic, we are going to do the example number 1. List all the factors for 24. When you start with a listing factor of 24, what you're going to do is you're going to write in pairs. So if you can write in pairs and then you go down the list, like for example, 1, 24, 2, 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, 5 doesn't work, 6 times 4. It starts to repeat right around here if you go down the list. If you go down the list, that's the only way you don't miss any pair. When the number 2 flip, you know you find all the combinations. Your factors are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 24. So let me say it one more time. Go down the list of finding the pairs in order. 1, 24, 2, 12, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. 5 doesn't work. And when you flip the number 6 times 4, same thing with 4 times 6. Once you flip the number, that means you cover all the factors. Now pause the video, try number 2 yourself. Here is the answer for number 2. Example number 3. What is the GCF? That stands for greatest common factor of 24 and 60. Now I have a little way of doing it. I think some of you guys might did it in a factor tree, but my little way is if you put down 24 and 60 next to each other and you draw a little L. Do not draw the L unless you know there's some sort of numbers they have in common. Notice they both have 2 in common. I'm going to start with 2. 2 goes into 24 12 times. 2 goes to 60 30 times. And because of that, I can do it again because they still have 2 in common. So 2 going to 12, that is going to be 6 times left. 2 going into 30, 15 left. I notice 6 and 15 has 3 in common because they don't have 2 anymore because 15 is divisible by 2. So if you put down 3, 3 going to 6 2 times, 3 going to 15 5 times. Notice 2 and 5, they don't have any other number they have in common when they multiply and have the same factors. The really cool things is the GCF is equal to the number on the side. Those are our greatest common factor. It's in both of them. They both have 2 in common. They both have 2 in common. They both have 3 in common. Now, some of you guys can see it right away with 12. That's fine. This is just in case if you can see it. This is a way to help you organize to see them. So to get your greatest common factor, just take the side numbers. Is 2 times 3, and that's 12. Is how you do the greatest common factor. Now pause the video, try the next problem. Example 4 is 18. Now example number 5 is GCF with numbers and letters. So let's try letters first, okay? And then letters works the same way. Now, x to the third, y to the third, z to the fourth, and you have x squared, y to the sixth. Looking for what they have in common and pull them out, you have x squared. Put on more than one thing, sure. But for the organization purpose, I will just put down x squared first. And then if I do x squared, that's x, y to the third, z to the fourth, and then x squared divided by x squared is really just 1. So therefore, we're not going to write down 1. But that's just y over 6. Y to the 6th power. Then we can do also y to the third because y to the third for the first one and y to the third is definitely covered with y to the 6th. It's more like division. Before we are distribute and now we are undistribute. So therefore, before we multiply, now we divide. So that's going to be x z to the fourth, and then that's just y to the third. So your GCF for this one is going to be x squared times y to the third. Please try example number 6. Number 7 has a little different twist to it because it has number in front of it and works the same way just like what the problem before, and we just combine the two together. You can do it in different steps so you don't miss any of the common factors. 24 x to the second y, 60x to the third. And when you want to start with numbers, I would even look at it and say, if I do 12, that will give me 2x second y, and this is going to be 5x to the third. Okay, then I notice my x to the second, they have in common, and that's 2y, and that's 5x. And just a shortcut. I don't know you noticed this or not, but when you have something in common, for example, especially the letters, you always take the lower exponents of the common letters. Let me say it one more time. Lower exponents of the common letters. So take a look at x squared. Take a look at x to the third. Which one has the lower exponent? X to the square. And notice we didn't do anything with the y because y do not have anything in common on the right hand side. So when we take letters, what they have in common is find the letters they have in common and take the lowest exponent of both of them. Okay, and that would be a shortcut, and literally it's just canceling x to the third divided by x to the second. You know it's x, and that's from chapter 5. So hopefully that will help. And your greatest common factor is just going to be greatest common factor is equal to 12x squared. Pause the video and try number 8. The answer for number 8, the greatest common factor is 8ab. For number 9, I want you guys to notice the difference. This is a factor, 12x squared plus 18x. We have the word factor. We have the symbol in the middle. Before, we are just finding GCF. When you have GCF, it's just what they have in common. When you have factor, you got to write down everything plus whatever is left over. Now, you can work it the same way. You can say, all right, I would like to write down 12x squared plus 18x, and then do the same thing we did before. I will do 6 as 2x squared plus 3x, and then I will be putting down x, and I left with 2x plus 3. And the factor form is you are putting whatever's on the side, 6x, on the outside of the parenthesis. Whatever is on the bottom is going to go inside the parenthesis. That's 2x plus 3. That's all. As long as you don't have anything in common, you will get the right answer. That's no problem for me. All right, go ahead, try number 10, and then see can you get the same answer, and then pause the video and check back. The answer for number 10 is 15x times 2y minus 3. On to the next problem. Factor by factoring out the negative of the greatest common factor, GCF. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. So that's negative 18 x to the fourth, y to the third, plus 9 x to the second, y to the second, z, minus 12 x to the third, y. So if I pull out a negative right away, that's negative 1. That's really just going to be 18x to the fourth, y to the third, plus, actually that become negative half the times a negative give you 9x squared, y to the square, and z. And if you pull out that negative, that become a positive. This signs changed. So that's going to be positive 12x third y. And then that's all for the pulling out the negative. When you pull out negative, all the signs in the problem change. Now what you're going to do is you are going to pull out things that are in common, and in this case I can totally see there's a 3. That's 6x to the fourth, y to the third, minus 3x squared, y to the second, z, plus 4x to the third, y. And then I'm gonna see, can you guys catch this? I'm gonna pull out all the letters they have in common. So x to the fourth, x to the second, x to the third. What is the lowest x? That's x squared. And then you have the next one, which is going to be Let's see. Y, Y, Y. What is the lowest Y? Well, the lowest Y is going to be just Y. Okay, and then we have a Z, but nobody else have a Z, so we're going to leave it like that. So, in this case, you have a 6, and you have x come out x to the 4th divided by x to the 2nd. 4 to 2. You're left with 2. Y, 3 minus 1, y to the 2nd. Minus, still numbers the same, x squared divided by x squared 1. Y to the 2nd divided by y, y, z. That's subtraction, dividing and subtraction. Plus 4x, y divided by y is 1. So we don't write down 1. So that is the work. And then you can totally simplify that. Or you can do negative 3. You can do negative 3x squared y. Do everything in one step. As long you don't leave it with anything in common. And you didn't miss any of the exponents and numbers. So the answer for factoring out a negative sign is going to be negative 3x squared y times 6x squared y squared minus 3yz plus 4x parentheses. And then pause the video and try number 12 and 13 yourself. There's the answer for number 12 and for number 13. The next thing we're going to do, factoring by grouping, what you have to do is remember, before anything else, you need parentheses. So I'm going to put parentheses on the first two, skip the plus sign, and put the parentheses in the last two. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 terms. Parentheses on the first two terms, parentheses on the second two terms. That's the first step. Step number 2, pull out what they have in common in the first parenthesis. By now, this should be very easy. They both have a in common, so I'm pulling it out. And x plus y is in the parenthesis for the first one. Do not forget the sign. The sign in the middle is plus sign, so I'm going to carry it down. And then what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing again, like a little separate problem. You're going to pull out things they have in common for second parenthesis. So pull out the C. That's x plus y again. The very interesting thing is, you notice there's x plus y and x plus y. And because they are the same, it's the same thing, having both have a in common for the first parenthesis, both have c in common for the second parenthesis, is you are going to take those two parentheses and pull it out and write it as x plus y right there. Okay, now we are going to take the leftovers. The leftovers is a and plus c, and just write them down. Parenthesis a plus c. That is all. There might be some other manipulation, but that is factoring by grouping. So a plus y, both have in common, goes first. Whatever's left, a plus c, goes into the second parenthesis. Now, if you switch the parenthesis around, you got excited, put down a plus c first, that's totally okay. You are going to try 15 and see can you follow the same step. Example 15's answer is q plus 2 and pq plus t. The next problem is example 16. I would like you to take a look at what's the difference between example 14 and 16. The sign is different. This is a plus sign, this is a minus sign. Now the reason this is a minus sign, we're going to do something a little different. So here's the rule. You have 2c plus 2d. Minus sign go to outside. Remember, this is the pull out a negative sign. And if you pull out negative signs, you got to change everything inside. So notice it was a minus cd, now become positive cd. And this is negative, become positive. Just switch the sign. So this is really CD plus D2, parenthesis. So let's write it out. Parenthesis 2C plus 2D minus CD plus D to the second power. Pull out things they have in common. That's 2. That's C plus D. Right here, you have D in common. You're going to pull out C plus D. Notice again, this is the same. The parenthesis is going to be the same, including the sign, because we switch your third sign. So when you have a negative in between the second and the third term, make sure the negative sign stays outside and change the sign of the fourth term. So the answer for that is just going to be 2c plus d, if you guys like that way, c plus d, what they have in common, and 2 minus d. And that is how you do example number 16. Pause the video, try number 17. The answer for number 17 is a plus b times 3 minus c. Let's go over number 18 together because it's a little bit trickier. What happens is if you put the parenthesis around it, this is parenthesis, and then that changed the sign. So that's going to be x squared y minus ax parenthesis minus xy minus a. And because of that, you look at the first parenthesis, you can pull out x, and you will have xy minus a. Minus, wait, isn't that the same as before? Yes. So what do they have in common? They both can multiply by that 1. Because 1 times xy is still okay. 1 times a, negative a is still okay. So that 1 is in the front. So that's going to be xy minus a. So now you should notice that they have xy minus a, xy minus a the same. That 1 has to be there as a placeholder. If you don't put it there, you're going to have something screwed up because you don't get your parenthesis. So your answer is going to be xy minus a times x minus 1. That will be your answer. Example 19, there's 2 ways of doing the problem. I'm going to show you number 19 one way and number 21 another way, and see which way you like. I don't really care, but the most thing is the keyword right here, factor completely. That means anything in the parentheses cannot have anything they have in common or anything that you can pull it apart. So in this case, let's take a look. Okay, if I follow the rules, the first 2 get parentheses, the second 2 get parentheses. And because of that, I know I have to pull out 2x, and that's okay. That's x to the second minus 4. Plus, that's 2y, and that's going to be x to the second minus 4. All right, so now what you're going to do is you are going to have 2x plus 2y, that's the first parenthesis, and x squared minus 4 is the second parenthesis. Now, eventually, I'm going to have to teach you this can be broken down. But right now, as a first part, I'm just going to require you guys to notice there is a 2 and a 2 right there. So the first part is going to be 2 times x plus y times x squared minus 4. For now, this will be the totally acceptable answer. But in about a couple sessions, that will not be. So that's that. I would like you guys to try number 20. Here's the answer for example number 20. 3 is in both A and B, and they can be pulled out as 3 times A plus B. Again, we will talk about A squared minus 4 in few sections. Example 21. Now, I want you guys to look at this problem. Remember I said there's a different way of doing it. If you look at this problem, you should notice they all have a 5 in common. So if you pull out that 5, that will give you 2ax plus ay plus 2bx minus by. Now when you do that, you can just make sure that you follow this part like what we did before and leave the 5 alone in the front. So do the parenthesis part And then we're going to do the same thing. Put it in brackets because we're going to say, hey, let's not disturb all the little parts in the back we are going to talk about. So that really is going to be 2ax plus ay parenthesis plus parenthesis 2bx minus by, because we are trying to separate the first two and the first 1, 2, and then 3, 4. Then bring the 5, and in the brackets, inside the parenthesis, first set of parentheses, they both have a in common, and that's 2x plus y. And then the second parenthesis, they have b in common, and that still is 2x plus y. Now, working through the problem, you should notice ignoring the 5, I'm covering my 5, it's actually just going to be 5 times the a right here and the b right there, but everything else in the rest of it is exactly the same. So same rules apply. It's going to be a plus b from the green and 2x plus y from the purple. That's example number 21. Please try example number 22 and check back with your answer. Here's example number 22. There's a couple pieces that I would like to explain just to re-emphasize the things you don't want to miss. Step 1. I noticed they all have 4 in common, so that's why I pull out the 4 right there. Then what I do is I rewrite it by pulling out the 4, but I also put the parenthesis in. But because the third term is a minus, I change my sign right here from a negative to a positive. That's the first thing. Or if you want to, I can just write down this is going to be changing into positive. But I will prefer you actually rewrite it. So now what you're going to do is you are going to pull out the W from this set of parentheses, right? The first set of parentheses right here. That gives you this part right here. Then the second part of parentheses is going to be the ones right here. And that is going to be pulling out the 2x. But notice my sign is changed from a positive third term to a negative. They stays, okay? Now, notice all the signs right here change the last term. So it's negative become positive, positive. Now, grouping them together is W and negative 2x right here. And the left is everything else. Thank you so much for watching.